Scandal rocks Miami. I'm done with this marriage. Olivia's shout stuns guests at her anniversary dinner. Jake's world shatters as betrayal unfolds before family and friends. What dark secrets sparked this public humiliation? Is this a calculated plot or a desperate cry? The truth is more twisted than you think. Brace for a jaw-dropping revelation. But what happened next will blow your mind. Jake Thompson, 38, lived for his family. A financial analyst in Miami's suburbs, he poured hours into work to secure their sunny Florida home. His wife, Olivia, 36, a marketing whiz at a trendy startup, seemed to thrive in her fast-paced world. Their daughter, Sophie, 18, was off at college, leaving Jake and Olivia to navigate their routines. Jake trusted their bond, built over a decade. He ignored Olivia's late nights, chalking them up to her career. She's ambitious, he told himself, brushing off the growing distance. Lately, Olivia snapped more. You're always at your desk, she'd say, her tone sharp. Jake laughed it off, thinking it was stress. He planned their 10th anniversary dinner at a South Beach restaurant, hoping to rekindle their spark. He invited family, friends, even Olivia's mother, Karen, whose sly comments always stung. Olivia deserves more than this grind, Karen would mutter. Jake ignored her, focusing on the celebration. He pictured toasts, laughter, maybe a dance with Olivia. He was wrong. The night started tense. Olivia barely looked at him, fussing over the table setup. Can't you do anything right? She hissed when Jake adjusted a napkin. Guests arrived, filling the room with chatter. Sophie called from college, wishing them well. Love you, Dad, she said, her voice warm. Jake smiled, feeling grounded. Karen, though, whispered to Olivia, their heads close. Jake caught their glances, a knot forming in his gut. Something was off. Dinner unfolded with forced smiles. Jake raised a glass, starting a toast. To us, to 10 years, he said, looking at Olivia. She stared back, her eyes cold. Karen smirked, sipping her wine. Jake's parents exchanged uneasy looks. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Olivia stood, clinking her glass. I have something to say, she declared. Jake's heart raced. He expected gratitude, maybe a sweet memory. Instead, her words hit like a slap. I'm done living like this, Olivia said, her voice steady. This marriage traps me. I need freedom, Jake. You don't see me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Jake froze, his glass trembling. Karen nodded, her face smug. Go on, honey, she urged. Olivia lifted her chin. I want a new life, one where I'm not ignored. The room spun for Jake. Ignored? He worked for their future. He loved her. How could she say this here now? Jake's mother leaned forward. Olivia, this is private, she whispered, but Olivia ignored her. No more secrets, she snapped. Jake's too busy for me. I deserve more. Karen chimed in loud. You do, sweetheart. Don't let him hold you back. Jake's face burned. He wanted to shout, to demand answers, but the eyes on him, his parents, friends, strangers, kept him silent. His chest tightened, betrayal sinking in. He stood, chair scraping. You call this an anniversary? He said, voice low. Olivia shrugged, unmoved. Call it truth, she replied. Jake's hands shook. He walked out, the restaurant's buzz fading behind him. Outside, Miami's neon lights blurred as he leaned against his car. His phone buzzed, Olivia's text. You'll regret running. He ignored it, his mind racing. What had happened to their marriage? To her? Jake drove to a quiet beach, the waves crashing on his stars. He replayed her words, each one a knife. Freedom? A new life? He'd given her everything, his time, his trust. Yet she stood before their world and tore it apart. Karen's smug face flashed in his mind, her whispers fueling Olivia's boldness. Jake's anger grew, but so did a flicker of resolve. He wouldn't let this break him. Back home, the house felt empty. Olivia wasn't there. Her clothes, her scent gone. A note on the counter read, I'm staying with Mom. We'll talk later. Jake crumpled it, his jaw tight. Talk. After that, he called Sophie, needing her voice. Dad, what's going on? She asked, worried. Mom's posts are everywhere. She's at some party. Jake's stomach churned. Already? He kept his tone steady. It's complicated. Sophomore focus on school. She hesitated. You okay? He lied. I'm fine. Jake sat in the dark, staring at his ring. 10 years and now this. Olivia's betrayal wasn't just personal. It was public, calculated. Karen's influence was clear, but why? What do they want? He thought of Sophie, caught in the middle. He wouldn't let Olivia's stunt destroy their family. Tomorrow, he'd call his lawyer. Tonight, he let the anger settle, fueling a plan. Olivia wanted freedom? She'd get it, but on his terms. Dan went to work the next day, but his focus was shot. He stared at his computer, sketches half finished, his mind replaying Kate's words. Act like my husband. The phrase gnawed at him, not because it was harsh, but because it felt like a script she expected him to follow. He'd always prided himself on being a good partner, supportive, compromising. But now he saw it. Every compromise had been his, every adjustment his surrender. By noon, he couldn't sit still. He left early, drove to a dive bar in Wicker Park, and met Mike. Mike was already there, nursing a beer, his grin wide when Dan walked in. They hugged, no pretense, just the ease of old friends. Man, you ghosted me, Mike said, half joking. Dan winced. Yeah, I owe you an apology. He ordered a beer, then spilled it all. The workshop fight, Kate's control, the way she'd reshaped his life. Mike listened, nodding, no judgment. She's got you on a leash, he said finally. Dan exhaled, the truth landing hard. I didn't see it till now. Mike leaned back, serious. You're not the same guy I knew. You used to take risks, chase your designs. Now you're careful. The word stung. Dan remembered late nights, sketching furniture, ideas Kate had called clutter, until he stopped. He'd packed his tools away, told himself it was temporary. That was 2 years ago. She didn't make me quit, Dan said, almost to himself. I let her. Mike raised his glass. So what now? You gonna keep letting her? The question hung there. Dan didn't answer, but it burned. He left the bar lighter, not fixed, but clearer. He wasn't ready to blow up his life, but he couldn't unsee the truth. Kate had edited him, his friends, his passions, his choices. Not with fights, but with silences, looks, calculated distance. He'd adjusted to avoid her disapproval, and now he barely recognized himself. That night, he didn't tell Kate where he'd been. She didn't ask, just smiled like everything was normal. Her ignorance fueled him. The next morning, Dan dug out his old sketch pads from the garage. Pages of angular chairs, minimalist tables, ideas he'd abandoned. He traced the lines, feeling a rush he'd forgotten. He didn't tell Kate, but he started sketching again, late at night, headphones on. He also reopened a bank account she'd convinced him to close, transferring a small amount from their joint one. Not enough to spark a fight, just enough to feel his own ground. Each move was small, deliberate, a step toward himself. Kate noticed, not the account or sketches, but his distance. She called his name twice one evening, her tone sharper the second time. You okay? She asked, eyes probing. Just tired, he lied, keeping his voice neutral. Her smile faltered, but she didn't push. Instead, she doubled down, cooked his favorite meal, touched his arm during dinner, asked about his day with forced warmth. Dan saw through it. She wasn't reconnecting. She was reeling him back. He played along, nodding, but inside he was untethering. Then came an email, a design showcase in New York, a chance to display his work. His old mentor had sent it months ago, but Dan had dismissed it, knowing Kate would call a waste. Now he signed up, booked a flight, and started building a prototype in the garage. He didn't tell her. The secrecy felt good, like reclaiming a piece of himself. But he knew she'd react when she found out. And she did. One night, she saw his sketches spread out, tools scattered. What's this? She asked, voice tight. Just a project, he said, casual. Her eyes narrowed. You didn't mention it. I didn't think I had to, Dan replied, meeting her gaze. Her face stiffened. You're pulling away, she said. Not a question. He didn't flinch. Maybe I'm just remembering who I am. The words hung heavy. Kate's expression shifted. Surprise, then something like fear. She didn't yell, but the air turned cold. She went to bed without a word, leaving him in the garage. Dan kept sketching, the pencil steady in his hand. He wasn't hiding anymore. The next day, Kate pivoted. She came home early, all smiles, suggesting a weekend getaway. "We need time together," she said, her voice soft but calculated. Dan saw it for what it was, bait. "I'm busy," he said, not looking up from his laptop. Her smile vanished. "What's going on with you?" she demanded. He set the laptop down, calm. "I'm done letting you decide who I am." Her eyes widened, but she didn't respond. She walked away, the guest room door clicking shut behind her. Dan felt no urge to follow. For the first time, her silence didn't scare him. Dan's secret project consumed him. Every night, he worked in the garage, shaping a sleek wooden chair for the New York showcase. The rhythm of sanding and sketching pulled him back to a version of himself he'd buried. Kate's presence loomed, but he kept his focus tight, dodging her attempts to draw him back. She'd leave notes, asterisk dinner's ready asterisk, or miss you, but they felt like traps, not affection. He ate alone, replied with one-word texts, and stayed in the garage. Her warmth was a tactic, and he wasn't falling for it. One evening, Dan left his laptop open while grabbing a beer. Kate walked in, glanced at the screen, and froze. "New York?" she said, voice sharp. He turned, caught. An email from the showcase organizers glowed on the display. "You're going without telling me." Her words were slow, each one a dart. Dan didn't flinch. "Yeah, it's my work." Her face tightened, a mix of shock and anger. "What about us?" "The house?" "You're just leaving." He set the beer down, steady. "It's a week, Kate, not a divorce." She stepped closer, eyes blazing. "This isn't about the trip. You're shutting me out." Dan held her gaze. "You've been shutting me out for years. I'm just done playing along." Her breath caught, but she recovered fast. "You're making me the bad guy," she said, voice rising. "I've done everything for this marriage." Dan didn't bite. "You've done everything to control it." The room went still. Kate's jaw clenched, but she didn't speak. She stormed out, the front door slamming behind her. Dan exhaled, the weight of the fight settling in. He didn't feel free, not yet, but he felt awake. The next morning, he found a note. "We need space." Kate was gone, her car missing. He called her, got voicemail. Panic flickered, but he pushed it down. This was her move. Punishment, not surrender. He went to work, sketched, kept moving. That night, he met Mike again. She bolted. Mike asked, eyebrows up. Dan nodded. Classic Kate. "She'll be back when she thinks I'm scared." Mike smirked. "You scared?" Dan shook his head. "No, I'm done." Days passed. No word from Kate. Dan used the quiet to dig deeper. He pulled bank statements, noticing odd withdrawals, small but frequent, to an account he didn't recognize. His gut twisted. He called Mike, who knew a guy, a private investigator. "Don't go crazy," Mike warned, but Dan needed answers. The PI was quick. Within 48 hours, he had proof. Kate had been funneling money to a separate account for months. Worse, she'd been meeting someone, Trevor, a co-worker. Photos showed them at a downtown bar. Too close, too often. Dan's chest burned, not with sadness, but betrayal. Kate hadn't just controlled him, she played him. The workshop fight, her accusations, all distractions to cover her tracks. He saved the photos, the bank records, every shred of evidence. He didn't confront her. Not yet. He called Mike's lawyer friend, Sarah, who laid it out. "With this, you've got leverage for a clean divorce. But you need to stay calm." Dan nodded, jaw tight. "I'm calm. I want out." Kate came home 3 days later, acting like nothing happened. "I needed time," she said, tossing her keys on the counter. Dan watched her silent. She rambled about work, her voice too bright, too rehearsed. He waited until she paused. "I know about Trevor," he said flat. Her face drained of color. "What?" she stammered. He slid his phone across the table, a photo of her and Trevor glowing on the screen. "And the money you've been moving." Her eyes darted, searching for an out. "Dan, it's not what you think." "Stop," he cut her off, voice like steel. "I'm done with your lies." She stared, mouth open, then shifted gears. "You're blowing this out of proportion. We can fix this." Her voice softened, pleading. Dan didn't budge. "There's no we anymore. I want a divorce." Kate's eyes welled up, but he saw the calculation behind the tears. "You'll regret this," she said, voice low. "Maybe," he replied, "but I regret staying this long more." He walked to the bedroom, packed a bag, and left for a hotel. Her voice followed him, begging, but he didn't turn back. At the hotel, Dan sat on the stiff bed, staring at his phone. Sarah's number was on speed dial. He called, confirmed the next steps, file for divorce, use the evidence, protect his assets. His hands shook, not from fear, but from clarity. Kate's betrayal wasn't a shock. It was the final push. He'd been losing himself for years, and now he was clawing his way back. He opened his laptop, checked the New York showcase details, and booked his flight. No hesitation. This was his line in the sand. Dan checked into a budget hotel in Chicago's Loop, the city's pulse humming outside his window. The room was bare, but it felt like freedom. He sat on the edge of the bed, laptop open, finalizing his New York showcase submission. The chair he'd built, angular, raw, would be his first real step back to himself. He sent the files, heart pounding. This wasn't just a trip, it was a declaration. He called Sarah, the lawyer, updating her on Kate's return. File the papers, he said. I'm ready. Sarah was blunt. She'll fight dirty. Be prepared. Dan nodded, undeterred. The next day, he met with a therapist recommended by Mike. Dr. Ellis was direct, no fluff. Why did you stay so long? She asked. Dan hesitated, then spilled it. The slow erosion, Kate's control, his fear of losing the life he'd built. I thought I was keeping the peace, he said. Ellis leaned forward. You were surviving, not living. What do you want now? The question hit hard. Myself, he answered, the words solid, certain. She gave him homework. List what he'd given up. That night, he wrote, friends, designs, choices, each word a cut, each page a release. Kate didn't stay quiet. She texted, called, left voicemails. We can talk, Dan. Don't throw us away. He ignored them, but her tone shifted, pleading to sharp. One message chilled him. You're making a mistake. I'll make sure everyone knows it. He screenshot it, sent it to Sarah. She's threatening, Sarah said. Stay focused. Don't engage. Dan didn't. He blocked Kate's number, redirected her emails to a folder. He wasn't running. He was building a wall. Work kept him grounded. He pitched new designs, bolder than before, and his boss noticed. You're on fire, she said. Dan smirked. Waking up, he reconnected with Mike and other friends Kate had sidelined. Over beers, Mike laughed. You're back, man. Took you long enough. Dan grinned, but guilt lingered. He let them fade. He vowed not to again. He also joined a local design group, meeting artists who sparked ideas Kate had once dulled. Each step, sketches, friends, therapy, felt like reclaiming ground. But Kate's shadow loomed. Sarah called one morning. She's spreading lies. Told mutual friends you cheated. Dan's jaw tightened. She's projecting, he said. Sarah agreed. It's desperate. We got the evidence. Stay clean. Dan flew to New York for the showcase. Nerves electric. The venue buzzed. Designers, critics, energy he'd forgotten. He set up his chair, its sharp lines drawing eyes. A judge, an older woman with keen eyes, lingered. This feels personal, she said. Dan nodded. It is. She smiled, moved on. The showcase was a blur of handshakes, feedback, possibility. His chair didn't win, but it placed top 10, earning him a feature in a design blog. He called Mike from the hotel, voice alive. I'm not stopping, he said. Mike laughed. Damn right. Back in Chicago, Kate escalated. Sarah sent an update. Kate had tried to freeze their joint account, claiming Dan was unstable. Sarah shut it down, using the bank records Dan had found. She's losing ground, Sarah said. The divorce is moving fast. Dan felt a surge, not joy but power. He wasn't just escaping, he was winning. He moved into a small apartment in Logan Square, signing the lease alone. The space was his, no trace of Kate. He hung one sketch on the wall, a promise to himself. Kate's final move came a week later. She showed up at his office, unannounced, eyes red but composed. We need to talk, she said, voice low. Dan led her to a conference room, keeping distance. I made mistakes, she started, but we can fix this. Therapy, anything. Her words were soft, rehearsed. Dan saw the play, nostalgia, guilt, control. No, he said, calm. You didn't love me. You loved owning me. Her face cracked, tears spilling. You'll be alone, she hissed. He shrugged. Better than trapped. She left, her steps echoing. That night, Dan sat in his apartment, a beer in hand, the city alive outside. He opened his laptop, started a new sketch, a table bold, unapologetic. Therapy had taught him to name his feelings. This was peace. Not the absence of conflict, but the presence of himself. Sarah called the next day. Papers are ready. Sign, and you're free. Dan smiled, pen already in hand. Kate's lies, her betrayal, had pushed him to this, not broken him, but rebuilt him. He wasn't just surviving now. He was alive. Dan signed the divorce papers in Sarah's office, the pen steady in his hand. The evidence, Kate's affair, the hidden account, sealed the deal. He kept his savings, his designs, his name. Kate got the house, but whispers of her affair with Trevor spread, costing her promotion. Dan didn't gloat. He didn't need to. Justice wasn't her fall. It was his rise. He packed his life into a few boxes and moved to New York permanently, chasing a lead from the showcase. A small design firm offered him a gig, freelance but promising. His Brooklyn apartment was cramped, but the light hit just right. He set up a desk, sketches pinned to the wall, tools scattered. No one told him to clean up. He worked late, not out of pressure, but hunger. The firm loved his edge, bold lines, raw ideas. A client commissioned a full furniture set, his first big break. He called Mike, voice bright. I'm building something real. Mike laughed. Knew you had it in you. Dan grinned, the praise landing differently now. It wasn't approval he needed, it was connection. Therapy kept him grounded. Dr. Ellis pushed him to face the guilt. Why he'd stayed, why he'd shrunk. You were protecting yourself, she said. Now you're choosing yourself. Dan listed what he'd reclaimed. Friends, art, freedom. Each session peeled back layers, leaving him lighter. He joined a cycling group, riding through Central Park on Sundays, wind in his face. He laughed more, not forcing it. Friends noticed, new ones, chosen ones. A co-worker, Lena, invited him to a gallery opening. He said yes, no second-guessing. Kate's final jab came in an email forwarded by Sarah. No subject, just venom. You'll crash without me. I'll be here when you do. Dan read it once, deleted it. Her words didn't cut anymore. They bounced off. He pictured her typing it, alone in the house they'd shared, clinging to control. He felt nothing. Not anger, not pity. Just done. He told Dr. Ellis about it. She's not your problem, she said. What's next for you? Dan paused, then answered. More designs, more risks, more life. The design blog feature from the showcase snowballed. A local paper interviewed him, calling his work fearlessly honest. Orders trickled in, shelves, tables, a custom desk. He quit the firm, rented a tiny studio space, and went all in. His first solo project sold out at a Brooklyn art fair. He stood by his booth, shaking hands, feeling the weight of his own name. A buyer, an older guy with a sharp eye, said, "You've got a story in these." Dan nodded. Yeah, took a while to tell it. He met Mike for a weekend in Chicago, catching a Cubs game. They talked like no time had passed. Mike raised a beer. You're you again. Better. Dan clinked his glass. Took a fight to get here. He didn't mean Kate. The fight was internal. Choosing himself over comfort, truth over peace. Back in New York, Lena texted about a new exhibit. He went, not overthinking it. They talked art, laughed, stayed late. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was easy. Real. No strings. One night, alone in his studio, Dan got an email. His furniture set won a regional design award. He stared at the screen, heart racing. This wasn't luck, it was him. He called his parents, who'd worried through the divorce. I'm good, he said, meaning it. They cried, proud. He hung up, opened a beer, and sketched until dawn. The award ceremony was small, but he stood on stage, holding a plaque, feeling taller than he had in years. The crowd clapped, but the Real win was inside. Dan rode his bike through Brooklyn, the skyline sharp against the sky. He thought about Kate, not with pain, but clarity. Her betrayal had been a mirror, showing him what he'd lost. Not her, but himself. He'd walked away, not to escape, but to arrive. Friends filled his life now, not roles to play. His work carried his truth, not someone else's rules. He stopped at a park, watching the city move. A text from Lena popped up. Drinks later? He typed back, yeah. He smiled, free, and pedaled on.